All right. So, mothers and others, our next candidate is Raquel Saenz Ortiz. Raquel Saenz Ortiz is running for State Board of Education in District 10. She's running against incumbent Tom Maynard. So, welcome, Raquel. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're running for office?
Absolutely. So first, thank you so much for hosting me this evening. So as you mentioned, my name is Raquel Saenz Ortiz, and District 10 is a large district, so it includes a big part north of Austin, Round Rock to College Station to Burnett, west of Austin, and south of Austin down to Fredericksburg. So sort of circles Austin. And so a little bit about me. I am a career teacher, so I started my teaching career in South Texas, across the border from where my father grew up in Reynosa, Mexico. I was a teacher for about 10 years, a middle and high school social studies teacher. I was an administrator for a few years, and then more recently, for the past 5 years, I've been in higher education. So I now prepare secondary teachers, so training people who want to be the future teachers. And I became interested in running for the State Board of Education when I was on the Content Advisory Committee to revise the social studies standards, the TEKS, in 2022. And the State Board of Education voted to reject all of the recommendations from the content advisors. And so that for me was sort of a wake-up call in recognizing how much power the State Board of Education has over the standards and instructional materials. And so some of the areas that I'm particularly passionate about in thinking about the State Board of Education is making sure that both the standards and instructional materials are historically and scientifically accurate, that they are representing diverse perspectives, and promoting critical thinking. And another area that I'm passionate about is making sure that teachers' voices are heard, that teachers have the agency to choose the materials for their classrooms. Teachers know their students best, and should have the ability to decide on their instructional materials. And so those are a couple of the things that I am passionate about in considering why I'm running for the State Board of Education.
Hey, that's fabulous. So, what are your top three priorities while you're running for office?
Yeah, so I would say my first is, as I mentioned, making sure that the instructional materials are historically and scientifically accurate and that they demonstrate diverse perspectives. So House Bill 1605 gave the State Board of Education more power to approve instructional materials for all content areas. And in December's meeting of the State Board of Education, there was also legislation approved that restricts and also gives power to the districts in deciding some of the instructional materials that can be used in classrooms. And so in approving materials, I would work to ensure that the approved materials are historically and scientifically accurate, represent diverse perspectives, and promote critical thinking. And in thinking about that, I'm also thinking about recognizing that with social media, we're living in an increasingly globalized and increasingly connected world, and also making sure that we're preparing Texas students in the best way possible, and also preparing them for the careers that don't exist, for careers that do exist now in a globalized world, and then making sure that we're preparing globalized citizens in the state of Texas. Another issue that I am particularly passionate about, that I think is a key issue in the State Board of Education, is ensuring that the state standards are regularly revised. So many of the State Board of Education members in the December meeting were unaware that it was up to the State Board of Education when standards are updated. And so there needs to be a regular schedule for updating the state standards. And again, thinking about content updates that are made nationally and statewide, that we need our content standards to be updated with those. And content experts are sought for the processes to update the standards. But as demonstrated in the previous social studies standards review, which I was one of the advisors for, the SBOE can override the content experts. And so I would support both teachers and content area experts serving on these committees, guided by TEA, having these regular revisions. And particularly, I think one of the more urgent revisions that's needed is the social studies standards, since those revisions were rejected in 2022, and only the revisions necessary required by Senate Bill 3 were the ones included. And there was a lot of progress in the proposed standards in thinking about including the histories of the diverse communities in Texas. And that needs to be something that is included in future revisions and was rejected in the past. And so I think that's something that really needs to be centered in the upcoming revisions for the social studies, standards, really making sure that we're including more representation of communities of color, and really centering critical thinking throughout those standards.
Okay, that sounds great. You're absolutely right. We do need all of those things. So, so just tell me, where can we find you and how best can we support you right now?
Yeah, so you can look up my website. It's Dr. Sboe, DRSO, for Texas.com. You can also find me on Facebook, and my it's for Dr. Sboe for SBOE, so DRSO for SBOE. Donations definitely help, and my email is also on the website, but it's drsboe@gmail.com. So feel free to email me if you are in my district and interested in block walking or having a sign in your yard. We're going to be starting block walking soon. Or if you want to send postcards. So you can reach out to me about any of those things. And definitely all the donations that we can get to expand our reach are always of great assistance. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail. Thank you so much for spending this evening with us.